Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. Let's regroup, catch our breath for a minute, because you said early on, what we've heard is all of the successes, and these were not accident. I mean, they were by design. I mean, you thought these things through, and you're very gifted at coming up with ideas and doing things, and very maniacal about applying them. And so, but you said you learned the bulk of what you've learned is you've learned more from your failures. Now, have the failures started yet? Or
not yet. I'm still going. We're still going up, but almost.
We're still in the Tour de France right now, right? We're still in those states. Yeah, the failures come later. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to getting there. So let's keep on going.
No, so long story short, in this portion of my life, I've always committed myself that I'm going to do something out of my comfort zone, because what I've known from cycling, the life begins at the end of a comfort zone, and the minute that you become comfortable, you become stagnant, and the minute you become stagnant, you're not growing. And I took it so much by my heart that I basically every 3 months would go on a trip to either learn from someone, whatever it was, retreat, workshop, or a course, or I would put myself into something ridiculous. And when I say ridiculous, I've done things like I trained with the samurais in Japan. Really? I did a Zen master training. I spent a month with the psychics in Brazil. I've trained under Wim Hof, the Iceman. I
don't know. I don't.
Yeah, so he's taking over the world with his breath and with cold exposure.
Breathing. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And it wasn't until I went into 10 days of darkness in Thailand, where this is about 7 years ago, where I go in there as a busy entrepreneur. I'm doing. That was probably at the peak, of my existence. And I go in there and I want to give my cell phone away. And I was burned out, right? Like I go in there, I just need to breathe. I cannot open another Orange Theory because it got so crazy that I remember in 1 week, I had 4 locations opening, 2 in San Francisco, 1 in Hawaii, and 1 in Atlanta. And the Atlanta one was the yoga studio, and everything else was Orange Theory. Wow. So that's how like crazy it has gotten in like 1 week. And somehow we pulled it off. Somehow it was fine. And when I got into the cave or into the dark room, there's also no food. So for 10 days, there's no physical food at all.
To get to Thailand, you're in Atlanta. You don't get on the bus or get on the plane and an hour later you're in Thailand. I mean, just leaving at the time. I mean, to fly to and from Thailand would be a big pattern interrupt for most busy entrepreneurs. But you said, okay, all of this is going on. You guys survive without me. I'm going for a month in Thailand. That's a huge thing. What did your wife say?
So, well, it was 10 days. So actually, yeah. So the month was in Brazil, but basically, this was a non-negotiable. I've learned about the power of darkroom. When I was younger, I did a workshop in Hawaii, and they were talking about the power of darkness and the power of letting go everything in order for you to regain, everything. Right. And I was just so mesmerized by this that, as brutal and hard as it is, I mean, it's not easy, right? To be with yourself for 10 days in complete darkness.
I can't begin to imagine. Yeah.
But I guess I felt the inner, calling, right? And so I go in there, and it took me about 7 days before I finally surrendered. I mean, the first few days was brutal. I mean, the mind, the monkey brain just would not shut up. It was really.
So describe that. What goes on when you first go in like that? So you're in darkness?
Yep, 100%.
How do you eat? Do they
You don't. There's no food, just water.
just water for 10 days? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see more than the monkey brain. I can see the stomach brain going crazy. But
Honestly, the easiest part is the stomach.
oh, really? So you're in darkness. There's no one else in there with you, right?
So about 20 of us, but everybody has their space, their room. So it's kind of like a temple. Imagine like a square temple. And then, on the sides you have rooms, and then in the middle it's like the meditation area.
Now, do you talk to each other or?
So at the beginning, you've got 5 meditations per day, and it's led by this woman. Her name is Jasmuheen, and she leads that. Now every day there is 4, and then 3, and then 2, until the last few days there is nothing at all. And the only time you talk to someone is like, "Hey, are you alive? Still there?"
Yeah.
it's basically
There's
you're
no
only
to talk about. Yeah.
That's it. Because
You're not asking each other, did you see the news? Yeah.
yeah, not there.
Yeah.
No, but so after day 7, I finally surrendered, and I had this biggest peace and bliss that just rushed through every part of my body. And for the first time in my life, I touch myself at some level for who I am and not for who I am not. And that's kind of what I've realized. Until then, I was living somebody else's life. I continued to like doing things just because, and just because we're taught to scale and taught to grow. And I was so depressed, at times, because I had this empty calling that kept on screaming out, like, what do you do this for? Like, why more? Why more? And that voice finally spoke to me, in the dark room. And this is when I had this clear image. I didn't follow my passions. I didn't follow my purpose. And I was creating a legacy, but it hurt my relationships. It hurt my health. It hurt, there was no balance, even though I was making millions of dollars. And so, for what? And basically, the vision was so clear. That's when the NOA and AON came about. And basically, it came to me, NOA means movement, and AON means all or none.
How does it mean movement?
So it means
if people have stayed with us this long, let's reward them by explaining it all out for them. The NOA stands for.
Yeah, so NOA, NOA, it actually has 3 different meanings in 3 different cultures. So I think Japan is my love, Hawaii is something else, and then Hebrew, it's movement. Basically, I just had this, right? And AON means all or nothing, if you also, translate it. Right. And it was crazy because my whole life I've been about unity. I've been about unifying. And we didn't get into the company cultures because I was all about holacracy and self-management and really treating, everybody with respect. And so at this point, I've noticed that my life has been highs and lows, and good sales and bad sales. And I lived this crazy roller coaster. And I was like, there must be another way to this. And that way is in the center. It's in the middle, where we can have health, harmony, happiness. And it just kind of was almost like a trip, right? Like I'm getting all of these thoughts, all of these insights. I mean, everything, just pouring at me. And at that point, I always loved music. So music was my passion, but I didn't do anything with it. So when I walked out of there, I learned how to produce music. I learned how to DJ, and I learned how to use solfeggio frequencies, which is healing music, but on a modern beat. And then I find my purpose. My purpose was, if I've done all of these travels, if I've done all of this like self-mastery, how can I service and others? How can I can't leave this or keep this all for myself. Right. And that became my purpose, retreats, workshops, lectures, what I'm doing today. And my legacy, I was like, I do not want to do another business just because making money. I mean, that is what gets me in trouble every time. Yes, it's fun to exit. Yes, it's fun to make more. But that is what got me into this, hole to begin with. And so I walked out of there, and I decided to basically move out of business. And honestly,
you had told us when we were warming up for the podcast that when you built all of this thing, especially with the Orange Theory, there was just no satisfaction. You were just emptiness. And so the satisfaction you were looking for, you felt you would have for the achievement growing. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, there's no, it's fun, it's exciting, but if it's empty, not good, not good for you personally, would you say?
For sure. I mean, anybody that's looking to start something, right, or is in a process of doing something, I mean, you can see it. I mean, 8 out of 10 people are disengaged in company cultures in today's world. Right. And, it's sad, but at the same time, it's opportunistic because we have the power to take our choices and consequences into our hands. And I think what happened to me there, I stopped being the passenger in a seat of just the slave of doing, and I became the driver of my own shit and ship. Yeah. at the same time, taking the ownership and moving from being a victim of that situation. And I walked out of there and basically, start making tons of mistakes. And, these mistakes ended up costing me pretty much everything.
For those of you who are sick and tired of fooling around and are dead serious about wanting to move up fast, I've got something especially for you. I've combined the best insights from over 40 years in business and making $70 million in income and compressed them into a free webinar. That's right, it's a free resource. If you want to find out exactly what the concepts are that I use in coaching $1 million earners, register now at WeidelOnWinning.com. You'll discover the 5-part framework used by so many to reach their financial, personal, and professional goals. You can find that link in this episode's show notes.
We've reached the failure part of the program where you really learned a lot of things. Okay, wonderful. Okay. Because that's what everybody wants. Everybody goes through failure, so they love to hear when you had to go through them. And because it makes you human, let's face it. You were on a run that had to end soon anyway. Yeah, because life is going to get you, and so you were on a magical run. But now it's payday. You got to learn that you're not. What we learn is that we're not all that. We're not we might do some magical things, have some magical thoughts, but really, you're still yourself. And things even out over the long haul. So what kind of things happened after you just started to go back and make changes, and how did that go? Plus the other thing is you've got to feel about yourself at this point in your life, I'm pretty smart. I make pretty good decisions. I'm going to go in a new direction, and you've got to feel like this is going to turn out really good, because I just know how to do things. And then when the failures come, you learn out, oh, I'm not really that smart.
It humbles you down.
Smart in that, And so how did you left that dark cave experience, and then how did you what happened?
Yeah, so in that time, I can't remember exactly, but I think I've already exited out of maybe Georgia and Oregon, but because there was a point when the private equities came in, and they were on a hunt because Orange Theory was just so hot in the market, and the margins were insane, and so were the multiples, so I think I had 1 or 2 regions already sold at that time. And so I had this comfort, right, to think about, what I really want to do. And what I really wanted to do was to, explore the music, explore the lecturing. And I also, in my educational process, I've trained under the Zappos Insights, the company culture training from Tony Hsieh. I was always mesmerized by the tribal leadership and marketing through love. I mean, my whole thing was about, finding purpose in profits. And I start feeling that, what I was doing didn't meet that criteria anymore, even though we were doing great stuff, right? I mean, from the fitness level to people, it just wasn't there for me anymore. I burned out. And so I had all of these pre-commitments. At that point, I also started a company called Tomorrow's Vision, which was a purpose-driven fund to help other startups to scale at the early stages. And I committed to here, there, I mean, more locations and more build outs. And what I didn't evaluate was the cash flow that I was having with all the open locations. So when I start selling them off, I stopped having cash flow, and little by little, the build outs became more expensive. I had tons of delays in that as well. Then everything was just, cost double, and it was one thing after another. It starts just like disturbing.
Yeah, the complications of things you can't control, the bigger you get. Yeah.
Yep. And so little by little, I start drying out, and I start seeing the accounts, knowing how much we still have to raise. And I start using, really bad loans that are kind of one of those fast, last minute, deals. And I woke up one day and every single account was below zero. Everything got frozen.
What?
And yes. And it was so scary. It was like,
that's worse than being in the dark room in Thailand.
That's the good old dark room was peaceful.
Yeah. Let me go back to the dark room.
That was my solution. No. So, that happened. And, at that point, so I made a series of mistakes. I mean, first of all, I just kind of let the team that I had run things. I kind of moved away from leading it. I moved away into the music and into the fun part of my explorations. And at that time, I just wasn't interested. I just like lost the thing and obviously forgot about all the responsibilities that I had in it. And so when this happened, it was a rude awakening, and this was not so long before COVID on top of everything.
Oh yeah.
And so the little few regions that I still had, which was like Hawaii, and then I had series of other investments at that point, but everything got shut down and closed on top of everything. And so at this point I was like, I mean I'm going bankrupt. But no, that wasn't how I was thinking. I was like, I will never go bankrupt. I will go dance on the street before I go bankrupt. And basically, I had to go back to work. I had to go back into, saving this and figuring it out. And so at first I moved to Hawaii to help these stores. That was the only region that we could never figure out how to make it profitable. And so we bought it back from a management group that was managing them. And, within about 2 months, we grew by 20%. So it was looking great. And then COVID hits. And now we're completely, shut down again. And everything I had left just shattered. And so in this point, I kind of wanted to hang myself because there was not much left. Right. And I'm like, all of this, I mean, what an idiot, right? To get it this far. And but here's the deal with COVID and situations like this, there's also opportunity. And I told my team, the little team I had left, that we're going to figure out how to be of this, how to support this. And I'm not proud of this, just to throw it out there, but it was literally the biggest dichotomy in my life. But essentially, we had about 40 events that we had to cancel on top of everything. And that's what I was, the little scrap money living off of. Yeah. And so now we had nothing. And we were thinking, how do we bring the events back? Like, what is the biggest solution to, open up again? And so COVID testing was, that whole hot topic at a time. Right. And within a month after COVID, we had our first COVID testing clinic open. We then start opening them in Orange Theory locations.
Really?
And within about 6 months, we were servicing major companies from Home Depot, IHG Hotels, Atlanta Hawks. We were the testing partner for that.
Really?
And we basically got into the medical industry, disrupted it completely because we were going at it from the concierge level. So we were also testing, billionaire parties. I mean, we deployed people all around the country. We did at-home test kits. We later on were the first ones to do COVID vending machines at the airports, and we made it on Forbes, Bloomberg. I mean that was like we were the down dogs that or the COVID gangsters that were trying to do good.
Now, how did you get in there? How would you go about getting a vending machine in an airport? What do you know about that? How did you figure that out?
Nothing. But I knew everything about real estate. So I start connecting all of my friends from all of the different states and cities. And I'm like, how can you get me here? How can you get me there? And I also, we also had multiple operators too. So we ran it not like a franchise, but as a split revenue share, where we were supporting, other cities as well. And we even created a technology. We had a technology for trespassing people, to be able to screen them before and after events. And it was me and two other, impact entrepreneurs that basically came together to make a difference. Wow. And that's how I made it back. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Million Dollar Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at weidelonwinning.com. Thanks for listening.